picked that group is because they had the most time sensitivity as a group. Not that individuals don't have time sensitivity in their individual cases, but as a group, the diversity visa folks had a September 30th deadline to get their green cards, and the statute says if you don't have it adjudicated in the fiscal year for your selection, it doesn't roll over. Employment-based green cards roll over, family-based green cards roll over if you don't get in the same year. But for the diversity visa, you get one shot. So that's why we decided to focus on that group. The other cases, the big one was there was one of the cases was Gomez v. Trump, and that's what that this decision will be listed under, because that was the first case on here. Gomez v. Trump had just about every category in there. I think they had all of them. I don't think they left anybody out. What we were asking for last week was an overturning of the proclamations altogether, and then in particular for our clients, we were asking the judge to figure out some remedy to make sure that the diversity visa folks got their green card for the end of the fiscal year at the end of this month. So we got this decision, and before we even saw the decision, we saw a headline, I think, that just looked like that it was a complete win. And then we realized it was like a win for our clients, but it's not a win for a lot of other people tonight. And some of you may be watching us that are in these categories that weren't benefited. So
lots of questions about the other categories, Greg.
Yeah, so I want to say, I mean, while we're happy, we certainly are very happy about the results for, in our case, the fight has to go on for the plaintiffs in the other cases. The non-immigrant visa holders who are stuck abroad, the immigrant visa holders, and the immigrant visa applicants, and the family and employment categories, and the other groups. Before we talk about our case, I did want to mention that there is another case. This is not the end for preliminary injunctions. There is another case that's being, I think September 10th is a preliminary injunction date. That is that's going to be in San Jose or San Francisco, I forget, but it's in Northern California coming up next week, and that case is basically another, as I say, bite at the apple to potentially overturn the ban. So different judge, different court, different circuit. So all hope is not lost for people that didn't get a good result from this decision that we're going to be talking about in a minute. But for those of you who are the DV winners, this is a good night. We have there's a hell of a lot of work that has to be done in the next I guess 26 days, and hopefully it will be done for everybody by that point, so that we don't have to resort to some of the other stuff we're going to talk about. But anyway, Chuck, I think that's enough for the preliminaries. I think probably the easier thing is to just start talking about what the decision says.
Great. Phil is our expert on the 85-page decision. So Phil, yeah, I know Greg is still printing it out on his dot matrix print at his home. So Phil, what can you tell us about this decision? What it mean, and what specifically the judge ordered to be done?
Yeah. So I did have an opportunity to review the whole all 85 pages of the decision. It's a very interesting decision. But we should just start out by reviewing what was ordered. So, Judge Maida, the DC District Court, he ordered that preliminarily the no visa policy that the State Department has implemented as a result of the presidential proclamations will be stayed as it applies to diversity visa applicants and their derivative beneficiaries. It says that the defendants may not interpret or apply the proclamations in any way that forecloses or prohibits embassy personnel, consular officers, or any administrative processing center from processing, reviewing, or adjudicating 2020 diversity visa or derivative beneficiary applications, or issuing or reissuing a 2020 diversity or derivative beneficiary visa based on the entry restrictions contained in the proclamation. So it's saying that these the consulates, embassies, they cannot interpret the proclamations in a way to suggest that they cannot issue or reissue, and that's important, reissue for those persons whose visas have expired. The decision also states that so the judge is being very careful with his language here. He's saying they can't interpret it to as a reason to deny it. He's also ordering them to undertake quote unquote good faith efforts to issue and reissue these visas to diversity visa applicants. He's enjoining the defendants from refusing to process, review, adjudicate, issue, or reissue diversity visas, specifically on the ground that they are not emergency or quote unquote mission critical exceptions. That was one of the arguments you guys know that that the defendants were using for a reason not to issue diversity visa applicants their visas. And the analysis, and we can go into that later, was very interesting because the judge there was no reason given by the defendants as to why diversity visa applicants couldn't be included in the emergency or mission critical exceptions. The part that I find interesting here is that the court actually declined to order the defendants to reserve unprocessed DV 2020 visas past the September 30th deadline.
Yes.
But
Right. And I was getting to that. But he said that he ordered the State Department to report not later than September 25th on those persons, those plaintiffs in our actions that have not been issued, and all DV 2020 selectees. So this does not just include plaintiffs. I've seen a lot of those questions on Twitter. It applies.
Point, Phil. This applies to everyone in the whole universe of DV selectees. Importantly, but he did say, hey, make sure the plaintiffs are done first, okay? Make sure you get them. But I think this is the point that we need to mention. They selected more people than there were lottery winners. I hope everybody realizes that. There were about 80,000 people selected for the lottery, and only 55,000 get it. So, and that's because of a standard.
We don't really know how many started the application process, do we?
It was like 81,436 or something like that were actually
filed for immigrant visa processing, or
no? That's how many were selected in the lottery.
We don't know how many actually followed through.
We have no idea how many to move forward with.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, hopefully there aren't people left out in the cold, but you would be smart to get going.
Yeah, I think the court is going to. So the court, I mean, they specifically said that they're going to be looking at the number of unused visas at the report date on September 25th. So if there are still a large number of unused visas, we could see the court, implement some kind of increase on the deadline, or using the unprocessed visas for the DV 2020.
You know, what I loved about that, Phil, is the judge did not, as he did in many other parts of the case, he didn't toss out the idea and say, I don't have authority to extend this. I think we gave him a way to extend the visas. He ordered them to nunc-pro-tunc them, which means retroactively approve them, or to reserve them for next year. And of course, there is in Congress a bill that would make sure that all DV numbers for 2020 are used. But again, important to point out, not everybody who was selected is going to get a green card, because there's only 55,000 DVs, and they notified or they selected 80,000 people. And that's really about the average drop-off rates, about 40%, Greg, from my 30 years of experience of looking at it, because they will drop you off for a period being out of place. They are hyper focused on it. All right.
One more thing I do want to point out on that point is that the judge is going to be specifically looking for the plaintiffs as well. So the the State Department needs to not just say how many were unused, but they need to report on every single one of these plaintiffs that might not have been issued, and they may need to give reasons for that as well. And
there were in total almost, I think, 920 plaintiffs in the lawsuit. How many do we have in our part of the lawsuit, Phil?
Ooh, gosh.
194, 191 or something like that?
Yeah, close to 200, but it's not all of them were not all of them in all of the cases were DV.
No. And so one of the things that we wanted to emphasize to people from the beginning, and really one of the reasons we did this pro bono, we did not charge anybody to do this work, was one, because we believed in the issue. We think it's important that nobody gets screwed out of their chance to come to America. And we know the odds of getting picked in the lottery. People have been applying 15, 20 years, and they finally get picked. And at the very last minute, Donald Trump pulls the rug out and says, too bad you lose. We just felt that was wildly unfair. But we also knew that even though our class certification was technically not granted, and we didn't file a class action, we did file a small certification for people whose visas had not been reissued. They'd been given visas. That was our part of the class. But they reissued visas to all but one of our clients already. They tried to moot out the class, right, Phil? They said, hey, no, those people don't exist anymore. Have a nice day. But we knew that if he ruled for us,
bastards,
he would have to rule for everybody. I mean, that's why we knew it would protect everybody.
And that was the judge's analysis as well. He was saying, well, it doesn't make sense to make the defendants comply just to certain immigrants. It makes it on a broader policy scale to make it apply to all immigrants. And so that's what he said. It doesn't matter that he denied the class certifications because it's going to apply to all of you anyway.
There's something really important in this decision as well that is going to, I think, have a positive impact on future cases, which will
including one of ours, right, Greg?
But one of our big arguments was that the Section 212F does not bar the issuance of visas. It's an entry, and this was something. This is something that is an important issue. For all these proclamations that are coming out on it, and this is going to be an important argument that we're going to make in our K1 case that we're I guess that we haven't told those folks yet, but we hit our number today, so we are proceeding with that litigation. But the Schengen ban.
About that, Greg. I did tweet about it. I tweeted about it.
You did. All right. So that's moving. But that case, we have I guess there's 20 some odd countries that are banned from coming to the U.S. because of coronavirus, and that 14-day ban that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. The State Department has used that as an excuse not to issue visas to people that are from those countries. This case will be helpful in making the argument in that case that the State Department has the authority to issue visas. The judge did not buy that argument here, and I thought that was.
Greg, do you know why he didn't buy that? Because there's no valid basis in law to do it.
Because you actually he was, and that was one of the more amusing parts of the arguments last week when the judge was like, I'm reading this, and it's like,
it's not in there. He said, can you point to me in the statute where it says that? Oh, it's not in there. Never, just don't try.
So hopefully in future, and it is possible that the administration will see the writing on the wall and maybe will, for example, look at issuing visas to people that are still subject, so that they don't have to come back in December or January looking for that visa. It would certainly be efficient in a lot of, to issue that visa.
Greg, I just realized one huge group that will benefit by that, probably more than anybody else, is Iranians. Iranians have been refused visas under basically the bans that Trump has put into place. They are now entitled to their visas. They may have an entry ban, but they're going to have the visa issued to them. So this is actually huge news, and it's position the Department of State has taken, at least under the Trump administration. I know at one of our annual meetings of the American Immigration Lawyers Association, they just threw it out there yeah, of course we're not going to issue visas. It's a travel ban. And they're going, what? Where do you get that from? And they just, I guess they figure they just throw it out there as if it's law, and people.
Look, and I'm wondering
against the wall and it sticks.
So I mean, it's like, and yeah, you make a good point. And for some of these people, in 60 plus 90 days, I guess, if we get the Lord is looking down at us and we get a Biden administration, for some of these people, these visas being issued now will make a big difference for them, as far as not having, the next president having to basically start from scratch and figure all this stuff out.
Now, this is one thing I did want to note. Remember, most people will not be able to come into the country by September 30th. That is not the rule. Now, there are a lot of people that have emailed me and they have questioned, well, hey, I'm adjusting status in the United States under the diversity lottery. Well, then, if you're not approved yet, you better call your lawyer now, because you have to be approved by September 30th.
You need to go to court or
call your lawyer now. If you don't have a lawyer, get a lawyer now, because immigration, unless you're writing a bonfire under their bonbons, there's no guarantee you're going to be approved. But the Department of State only has to issue the visa by that point. That they're good for 6 months. So you have until, let me get the math. You have until March to come into the United States, and please find a way to come. I mean, I know a lot of you got stuck, but there were people, Greg, that were issued visas in December. Oh, I think I'll go to America later next year. I mean, if you've got a swim,
who would have predicted?
Well, but come on, really? Come.
Mercy there, Chuck.
And then, we had families. I mean, we had our plaintiffs. So Dad came, and Mom came.
And I think people gave the doubt that Donald Trump wasn't going to figure out a way to basically immigrants out.
Well, he does hate diversity visa.
If it's going to be bad, people do it against immigrants.
Yeah. Well, I'm sad for the categories that didn't benefit tonight, but we know that the diversity visa folks are the ones that Trump hates the most. So
he does.
When he gets the news, or I'm sure they'll wait till after dinner. He probably hasn't gotten it yet, or after this Fox primetime lineup is over. And when they give him the news, he's gonna care more about the diversity visa people coming than all the other people that are.
You will be in a presidential tweet. Is that possible?
That is coming. Oh my gosh,
I hope so.
Greatest.
That would be the best. I would actually frame that tweet. That would be awesome. Or maybe he just blocked me right away. Now, one of the other things I did want to...
Which is illegal, by the way.
Yeah, of course it is.
Come on.
I do want to answer some questions here.